very soon? Great. Do we have people coming in? All right, we'll get started. So thanks for joining us today to learn and engage in our deep dive discussion. So last time we talked about, securing your AI with strict boundaries and setting up the right guardrails. And today we're going to dive more into having a better understanding of separating out, people in your organization who are allowed to push into production and deploy live and setting up the right, permission sets and access control. So today's discussion is actually part of a series of deep dives that will teach you, all the ways on how to properly approach implementing and deploying AI at enterprise scale and have it actually, work in the real world. So I thought I'd first start with a scenario that can often play out in many teams where, let's say, a top support rep is really skilled at, prompting and crafting an agent to be able to execute some work. But the support rep, then goes ahead and deploys or pushes it live as the rep thought, they made the right judgment call there. But they're not, a deployment expert, right? They might not be aware that they, first need to have, say, a rollback plan in place. That it needs to be properly checked if there are any issues that might unintentionally affect, thousands of customers, downstream applications, and other things that they might not be aware of. So Raja, you have worked, with several enterprises in helping deploy their AI to real customers. Could you walk us through why, maybe writing and shipping and these things should be fundamentally different judgment calls or permissions separated out?
Thank you, Rebecca. So there are actually multiple facets or multiple layers to what we're talking about here, right?
Right.
So when we deploy an AI agent, fundamentally these AI agents, they have this the layer of a SaaS-like application, right? So I'm deploying them using the same CI/CD continuous integration, continuous deployment or development type pipeline. But when we deploy this infrastructure, that falls under the traditional the purview or the realm of the typical software deployment processes. But then when I deploy an agent, depending upon what kind of agent it is it an agent that it is not autonomous at all? Is it semi-autonomous? Is it completely autonomous? And depending upon what kind of, what degree of autonomy this agent is carrying, anytime we deploy one of these agents, I am undertaking a risk. Um, and also, when we deploy these agents, in the previous session, we have talked about this, that the surface of security issues and the surface of what could go wrong, it is compared to an AI agents of a surface of what could go wrong, security issues, misfiring or problems with configs, all of that, the surface area is much, much bigger because of the non-deterministic nature of AI agents under the hood, the large language models that are working as the brain of these AI agents. So first of all, let me step back. What is an AI agent? An AI agent under the hood, the central decision-making engine or the central brain of these is a large language model. But surrounding it is your traditional software. And the way these agents decide to use, maybe I went and asked a question, and then my agent decided that it needs to go and query my CRM system, or my agent needs to go and query a web search, or it needs to go and call a Python, use a Python library and run and spin up an additional sandbox. So these kind of decisions, they take autonomously. And now, uh, which tool it calls, whether it has permissions or not, there are a lot of non-deterministic there are a lot of risks that this non-deterministic behavior of LLMs sometimes it can expose us to. Um, and when you're deploying an agent, someone who does not understand, a subject matter expert, let's say we have an amazing agent platform. We are allowing subject matter experts to build and deploy agents. The problem is the subject matter experts, they may understand the domain. They are an awesome salesperson, an also awesome sales or marketing person, or great content writer, but they may not understand the challenges and the nuances there may be in agents. So there has to be a separation between who is able to make changes to these agents versus who's able to deploy these agents, because both skills are not the same. So that's the general dilemma. And because when we deploy these agents, as I started off this discussion with, depending upon the level of autonomy these agents have, it is uh, it is very difficult uh, to safeguard for someone who does not understand all the possible all the possible ways these agents can make a wrong decision.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned some good points there, and I think it kind of reminds me of another kind of example you might have seen in organizations where they kind of reflexively deploy an agent. It breaks production because the staging environment that they're working in, so the staging environment before they were going to deploy, assumed there was this tool connection that wasn't configured the same way as it was in production. So you have this scenario where it did kind of break production and maybe that person just wasn't aware of that. Um, what are the kind of things that you see kind of break often, or people are like kind of things that they're not truly aware of when they're
Mhm.
going through this process?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, right? So depending upon you name any tool, right? So the tool could be just tool without naming names. Let's actually tool A, tool B, tool C. I created a chatbot, and now the chatbot is connected to some of my previous chat interactions. And I have some repository of it is a customer support chatbot. Now, the chatbot could be connected to a bunch of data sources that are giving um, that are sources of, as we call in our side of the world, and technically we call it the context. So it provides this context to the chatbot. And now this chatbot goes ahead. Anytime a customer comes in, asks a question, this chatbot goes and finds out if it has any information about this question. Now, imagine if someone accidentally hooks up an internal proprietary source of data, or maybe something that has personally identifiable information, or anything of that sort. I can give you a real example when we were working with one of the customers. So we had hooked up uh, a bunch of generic public domain help articles, blog articles, their documentation, etc. But when it came to connecting, so this was a technical support assistant, like a chatbot that resolves technical issues for the product. Now, imagine what could be a better source to resolve customer issues than the Zendesk tickets, the past tickets that have been opened and past resolutions of tickets. Can you imagine that? I mean, how useful and how powerful that tool is, that context is going to be. But um, but we did not connect the Zendesk ticketing system directly. And the reason being, let's say if I go there and I am working for some company, I work for Walmart, and I am having this issue with backing up this database. And now my Zendesk ticketing system is connected to on the chatbot side. Zendesk is connected, and it accidentally exposes Costco or Target or some other customer because these are tickets. So how do you separate this? How do you separate this, or maybe email addresses of who the customer was and all of that, right? So and a proper protocol in this case is going to be you never connect these systems directly, and you're going to have some kind of PII scrubbing mechanism there, and really just take necessary precaution because this can expose your chatbot to unintentional manipulation, unintentionally, someone asked, and then eventually intentional manipulation, right? So I know that I can go to the chatbot and I can fish out all the information. Somehow someone accidentally connected the chatbot to some internal data source, and someone is just someone connects this hose to your chatbot and sucks out all the information, just take it out. So this is only one aspect of it. We can definitely keep talking about any possible scenario. So think about, it's almost like someone, there is just too many windows, and in there someone decided they need more air and then just open one window, and you don't even know, and just some burglary happens. I mean, such is the nature of these systems.
Oh, for sure. And I think I think that I also like I want to bring up the point of or this concept that we can kind of like draw from maybe traditional software's separation of duties. So just going back to the point you made of like, separate, like the person who's writing should not be doing the same as well. So developers don't, obviously push straight to production without some kind of code review or release manager sign off or the like. But an AI agent can feel like just a chat interface rather than real production software, even though, the blast radius can be just as large or larger since an agent can touch many systems at once, right? So why do you think in agentic AI still doesn't feel like maybe like real production software to a lot of teams, even though it can touch just as many systems?
Yeah, this is a great point, Rebecca. Um, so when you deploy uh, your traditional software, you have regression tests, you have unit tests that you deploy, you have some predetermined or known aspects of the software that you're deploying, and you can actually run that evaluation or regression testing, as we call it. You run it and you evaluate all the regression tests pass, and life is good. In case of an agent, there is actually um, a similar pattern uh, that allows you to evaluate your agent. Only to some extent, by the way, right? Because there's so many moving parts in deploying an agent. But to some extent, it actually allows you to evaluate. And the idea is that you use evaluation framework. One of the hardest areas, by the way, in agentic AI is evaluation. One of the hardest areas. In how many ways can you evaluate? So when you deploy, you have a very similar idea. First of all, let me step back, right? So just like you have CI/CD, you have the staging and the production version of your software. Similarly, in our own product, Ejento, what we have done is knowing that deploying an agent without testing, it can be a major risk. I connected a new data source. I have no idea, if were these secure or not. I enabled a new tool. Are these new tools being routed or fired correctly or not? Is the agent still responding? There are so many things, right? There are many um, there can be malicious activity, right? So someone intentionally added or unintentionally information was there in the documents. I mean, one case is one of the customers was worried about. They had this. Uh, their concern was that if someone sends in, we send out we publish an RFP. The customer published an RFP, and then potential vendors, they are bidding for proposals. They're responding to the proposals. And now imagine if the submitted proposals have some hidden, in white font on a white background, they have some text, which
Mhm.
is prompts, right? And the prompt actually favors favors their proposal over other proposals. I mean, they're clever AI folks. They submitted the proposal, and then they within the submitted proposal, they have this hidden prompt that favors their proposal, right? So very valid concern.
Mhm.
So how do you detect all of these possibilities? How do you actually make sure that your agents are able to handle all of these scenarios, right? So basically, just like in your traditional software, you have these pre-deployment staging, or call it dev or pre-prod or staging type checks. So you before you deploy, you have these uh, versions of your agent where you can essentially test them out without impacting the production agent. And maybe if we have time today, I'm going to show this how we do it in Ejento. I mean, I will show you in the UI, and we'll see how we do it, and what would a system like this actually look like.
No, for sure. I think that'd be great. And I think I also it also makes me think of this idea of, separating out maybe your configuration environment of where you build the agent, write the prompts, connect the tools, set the guardrails, and the like, and separate that from the usage interface,
Yeah.
of
Mm-hmm.
other team members using the agent to help, go about their work. I believe Agento is like designed to separate these things out, right? Can you
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
explain how Agento coworkers work, the usage interface
Mm-hmm.
completely being separated out from being able to configure even, for the original agent builder, I believe. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So basically, the idea is so when you have agents in your organization, so there are going to be your IT team, your AI team that has expertise in AI and agent building, and then they will work in conjunction or in collaboration with your subject matter experts. So your AI team or IT team is working with your salespeople, your recruitment team, or your HR team, your legal team to create these agents. Now, there are people who are going to be using these agents inside the organization, right? So maybe legal and HR publish some policy, and the rest of the company actually uses those policies. So what we have done is in Ejento, what we have done is maybe I can bring it up. I think if the timing is right, maybe I can show it to you.
Yeah,
Um,
sure. Mhm.
if you look at it, so this is
Oh, sorry, just the
our own
screen share.
deployment of Ejento. This is our own deployment of Ejento. This is, let's say, our blog writer, right? So, and now if you look at this, I can interact with this. I can write blogs about any topic. And really, I can write blogs about on any topic. But there is not much I can do. I cannot change this. I cannot make any changes to this agent. And if you look in the URL, this is my coworkers interface. So this is my central published vetted out coworkers. And really, if you go, Rebecca, and you click on this on coworkers.datasciencedojo.com, and this is by the way behind this is behind uh, a single sign-on. So only someone who has a datasciencedojo.com account can view these agents. But when you go and um, interact with these agents, so the same coworker, same AI coworker, same AI teammate can help Rebecca write her own blogs, and then I can be using we call her Jasmine, right? So Jasmine can help Rebecca. Jasmine can help myself. Any of us can actually use this, but we cannot edit or modify this. So for to be able to modify this blog writer, now if you look at this, now suddenly you can see that this is the production version. If you look at this, there is I don't see any option here. But on the other side, I have this production. Even if I go to production, I can see what the settings are right now. If you can see, I'm using Claude Sonnet, some deep agent and all of that. I have a blog writing skill here that I'm using. I am connected to some web search and other tools there, but I'm not able to change these things. But if I want to be able to change, or let's say we found out that this agent was not behaving um, as per our guidelines, I can actually go back and roll it back to the previous most stable version that I'm aware of, right? So this was changed on July 24th. Before that, again, July 24th and July 9th. So whichever was the last known good version, I can actually go and roll back to that version, just like I can do it in software. Then here, uh, let me actually show it again. I can actually, if I think that a new model came in, I will deploy the model and I can change the model. Let's say this is using 4.6. Let me see. I believe we have 4.7 as well somewhere. So if I change right now, Claude Opus 4.7, I go and apply this change. Now, the question, I have applied this change. Is it already visible on my production agent? The answer is no. Even though I've changed it, this change is only in the staging version of the agent. This is not on the production version. And in order for me to first make sure that just to make sure that this was configured properly, I have different ways. I can go and start run a suite of evaluation, my regression tests. If I have any concerns about any kind of security issues, I can also kick off a red teaming exercise. And now you can see that I can simulate different attacks. So I can simulate pretty much the example that I was telling you, those hidden character type attacks. I can do that. And there's many others, right? So covering like many different aspects of agentic AI or AI. But if you look at this, going back to Rebecca, your point, there is a separation of agent building and agent consumption, and the people who are just consumers, they don't have to know how this agent was built, and you're just consumer. If you have any concern, right? So hi, how are you, right? So just I will write something, and then if I don't like a response, then I downvote my response, and the downvote goes back into the feedback pipeline. And then eventually, the whoever is the owner, if you look at this, hey, I'm your, hey, Raja, how do you? And if I downvote this, then of course, it goes back into the agent owner gets notified, and then they take necessary action to fix this problem. I hope this was enough, Rebecca. Happy to elaborate, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah, for sure. I think
we have evaluation, we have red teaming, we have staging and prod versions of agents. We have a lot of different things. We have evolved over time, and thanks to our customers, they have been our design partners. I mean, the Ejento was actually built using some Fortune 500 companies. They became our early customers, and based on their feedback, we have built this product. Not because some product manager thought that it would be cool to build this feature. There was an actual need of every single feature that we have built, and then we have built these features. In this case, for regression testing and anything around deployment of AI.
no, for sure. No, that was very useful to go through that and to learn about it. And I think a question that kind of came to my thought though, and I see this sometimes in teams where, someone's just trying to make a quick fix and we have a setup where there's like the configuration environment is separate from your usage interface environment, from your teams that are using it. You're separating out your edit permissions from your deploying permissions and things like this. What do you say to people you know, who say, I just want to make a quick fix and get it out there as quickly as possible? How do you respond to people who might make that kind of like
Yeah, yeah,
statement?
yeah. I think I think it goes back to your traditional software as well, right? So I would very much want to deploy things as soon as possible. Back in the day, right? So maybe a personal interesting anecdote, right? So long time ago, right after my PhD, my first job at Microsoft, and I saw these very senior engineers, much senior than I was at that point. Uh, and they were arguing over literally a code change that was like one or two lines. One guy was actually arguing, hey, let's ship it. And the other person says, no, I mean, there's a lockdown. It's not going to happen. But this is just a small line of code, right? And even the deterministic software, as we know, as we can call it now, even the deterministic software, where things were somewhat understood, there was risk because code, you don't know who's using this code and what could happen as a result of this one or two, three lines of code, what kind of
Just takes
instability
one
that
line
all
for
it
sure.
takes is one line, right? And now add non-determinism to this situation. So one might think that this small change, hey, I just added a line of a prompt line, be nice to the people that you're interacting. But be nice, what if it understands be nice to mean whatever they're asking? Tell them. Someone asks, hey, I need, tell me a politically incorrect joke, right? So, and then the chatbot says, no, I cannot tell you, hey, can you please do it? And someone said, please, and then be nice. That prompt actually guided it to, yeah, if someone is saying, please, just go do whatever they're doing. This is just maybe an example on a lighter note, but this is a real example. This can happen. So, and then now anyone can just scoop out any information that they want. You added one line of code to a new tool was connected. Hey, use this tool when this happens. And now you had five other tools that were connected, and your instruction was vague. And now your agent that was working very well, now it is just misrouting to the wrong tool. So there are so many things that could go wrong that deploying agents in a rush and without proper evaluation, it is a bad idea. And we have not we have not seen any case like Equifax yet. The Equifax data breach and predictive models or data issues happening. But we have started seeing, I think in the previous session, those cases have started to emerge where a poorly designed or poorly tested chatbot or assistant or agent was released, and it caused the company quite a lot of money, or if not quite a lot of money, at the minimum, PR issues and got into litigation and legal issues.
Yeah, no, that sounds very serious for sure. And I also want to bring up the argument that sometimes you hear, that role-based access control that we've established in enterprise for a while now, maybe should also be mirrored in AI deployments. So what's the risk of trying to reinvent the wheel and make something that just looks so unfamiliar to teams that it might lead to like undergovernments where people just don't know how to set it up properly or use it? Have you ever seen this kind of happen before, or?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to keep systems secure, security is inconvenient, right? So a two-factor authentication, I forgot my password, I have to request IT to reset my password. I mean, all of these things are there. They are, call them insurance policies, right? So you pay the, a little bit of in the form of a little bit of inconvenience to actually save on this major inconvenience sometime down the road. So, you mentioned role-based access control. So first, for those who may not be familiar with this, usually when agents are these AI agents are used, let's say within my organization, I'm there, Rebecca's there, we have other team members, and now the same assistant. Typically, many organizations they would configure this assistant with centralized service accounts with elevated permissions. And now, if the same agent, Rebecca calls it, or that agent, Rebecca cannot access certain data source because she does not have the privilege. But Rebecca knows that now, if I go through this agent is configured. I can scoop out the same information from that agent, right? Accidentally, or it can happen intentionally, unintentionally. Role-based access control, the idea of role-based access control in AI agents is that agents inherit the permission of the user. So when I log in using my email account from at ejento.ai and Rebecca logs in with her ejento.ai account, then uh, the agent actually, we delegate our permissions to AI agents. And that's how it actually happens. But things get far more interesting. So first of all, no service accounts. It is going to be role-based access control, right? So if I call the agent acts on my behalf, should have my permissions. You call it, acts on your behalf, your permissions. Now, what if that there is another agent? So agents can communicate with each other, assistants, they can spawn off sub-agents, they can spawn off other tools. Now, think about this. What if there is some agent somewhere in the organization? So I configured this particular agent in role-based access control, but there is something else, some other agent um, that is set up as a service level permission. Now, this agent hands off some task to another agent, and that agent has an elevated permission, and it carries on the task. So, or so there is it's a very complex interaction. I mean, so this is why the whole premise of building Agento is you have to treat your AI agents like humans, hold them accountable, um, train them, uh, configure their privileges, configure their access and IAM, identity and authorization, and this whole business. Make sure that all of these are configured just like you would configure a new human employee, minus the accountability. Accountability still lies on the owner of the agent, but rest of it actually goes to just configure them in the same manner. Because what if one agent is talking to another agent and persuades that other agent to actually take an action? There are other agents. Let's say you have an IT admin agent, which will have elevated permissions, and these for many of us, these might look like far-fetched ideas, but these are actually, we have seen these issues in production, We have seen these in real life, and some of them actually did make it to the news and caused a lot of grief to companies.
Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely worth paying attention to. Another question that I was thinking that might come up with people, when thinking about access control is what about the usual approval flow for risky actions? So, from my
Mhm.
understanding, I believe there is a real difference between just your usual approval queue for one, specific action, and then there's,
Mhm.
actual role-based access control over who
Mhm.
can change and ship an agent to everyone, right? Maybe you can discuss that distinct difference and why it's important to understand how they're different.
Yeah, yeah. So, in many cases, right? I think it depends upon the use case, right? So, really, um, I mean, think of it as something as simple as um, responding to an email in an automated fashion, right? Or issuing a refund to a customer.
Mm.
These are so um, the action that these agents take, they are not the cost is not the same. There is the cost of both action. It's not symmetric, right? In one case, if I can issue, and also refund is there's a lack of symmetry there. So I responded, hey, we cannot issue you a refund, or I responded, yes, we will be issuing you a refund in like next 5 days. And then when a human comes in the loop, oh, this was against the policy, we will not. Or human comes in, yeah, cool, will issue a refund because it is consistent with the policy. Versus you said that we are going to automate the process of refunds. And now, what if the agent actually refunds without refunds, let's say $100, right? Still, the damage is small. But what if it issues a big refund, big refund? So now uh, that's where this approval queue comes in. It has the autonomy. It has decided to take this action. Your agent has decided to take this action of refund the amount, and then a human comes in and takes it out of your approval queue. And the closest example that comes to my mind is some of the social media management apps where there is an entire team working on pushing these social media posts into a queue, and there is this final approval by a manager that releases the post and sets them up into that publish workflow. So think of these junior staff members in a social media team as your AI assistants. And once they are approving these posts, they're pushing all of these posts into production. So they are putting that into the production queue, and then someone is approving these posts and publishing them.
Yeah, and I might go back to that, following the human process that's kind of worked for years, and applying it, or at least trying to model a little bit off that, because we have got some human processes down packed. We have not got every single human process down packed, but we have got some really good practice over the years as humans in how to organize ourselves and how to organize our work. Why couldn't we just apply that to some of the AI agents that we're also working with? So it kind of comes back to that point too, I imagine. I
Mhm.
just wanted to give a little pause just in case anybody wanted to ask any questions, but also if you wanted to go over any points you had made, Russia, that were, especially when it comes to separating things out. And I think before you're giving us a demo on Ejento and how we separate things out with like coworkers, for example, the usage interface is totally separate from our, app configuration sort of interface. And I thought maybe you could go over the permission sets as well that are on Ejento, just so people can have an idea of how inheritance works, how permission sets works,
Mhm.
maybe like a little hypothetical example. Just to like it helps solidify the concept a little bit more when you see it in front of you.
Yeah, I think the closest, so we have this notion, this idea of permission sets, and uh, the closest parallel or example would be is the security groups that you would have in Microsoft, for instance, right? So you have this group, IT admins. They have certain privileges, and you have team members, marketing team, admins or marketing team, content writers. So you have these permission groups, and then you have uh, within that permission group, you have different permissions. So for an agent, you can have permissions to, for instance, changing the prompts. You can have permissions to add or remove data sources or tools to them. You can have permissions to evaluate. You can have permission to run a red teaming on those. You can have permission to view and use the agent. You can have permission to edit the agent, and you can have permission to deploy the agent. Uh, and then and how did this feature evolve? Once again, we implement this feature, which very common sense. Once you implement this, yeah, I mean, why didn't we have this all this time? The idea was that one of our customers was actually so we had, if you have edit permission, you go and edit, and your changes are live. And why not, right? So, or if you have edit permissions, let me actually bring this up here so you can see. So let's say I have elevated permissions, so I will be able to do it. But think about this. Just a moment here. I will share my screen. This is hopefully this is the correct screen. Okay. So now, so if you look at this, this is the same agent. This is the same assistant where I changed my model from Claude 4.6 to 4.7, right? And now, if you look at this right now, it is 4.7. Now, I can go ahead and deploy it, but here is the catch. There are 4 changes. It is showing me what changes are there. Then I have added attachment tool. I have enabled PII redaction, etc. But what if, imagine that, what if I know how to change this agent, but I'm not someone who's qualified to make sure that this agent is working well? Or I'm in a rush, I don't know the process. So there is a separation in this case, or there should be a separation. It doesn't have to be only for Ejento. For any other product, it should be like this, that you have the separation of what are the things that you can control. So if I was not if I did not have the deploy permission, this would have been actually grayed out. I can change the agent, but I cannot deploy the agent. So I can make all the changes, and someone else who's, let's call it my agent ops people, they have the permission. So I send them a note, hey, this is ready. You guys go and do what you will need to do before it goes live. And right now, if I go to prod, the production agent is still going to be responding to me with the previous setting. The staging agent will respond to me using, of course, using the staging agent. I can go evaluate the staging agent, run my regression tests, etc. And then either myself, if I have the permission, or if someone else does it, I can actually go and say, showing how deployment works. So I go ahead and deploy these changes. And the moment I hit deploy changes, the changes actually get deployed to production as well. Okay. If I want to roll back to the previous version, this is my deployment. So if you look at this showing how deployment works, I can actually roll back to my previous version. And if you look at this, I can go back and restore this deployment. I can go back and restore it. So something as simple as that. And now I've gone back to the previous version of the agent that had existed. before I made these changes. Um, so the permission sets are there, security groups. They ensure that uh, you uh, you have these security groups, the people who are, let's say, there is an agent ops permission. Agent ops permission would be is they may not be able to um, take other actions, but they have so if they have only agent ops permission, then they are able to deploy the agent. Anyone, some people may have edit permission to this, and then they will be able to, well, edit this agent. So it's basically that's a separation of responsibility and control.
Oh, for sure. No, it's been really useful to learn about how to properly, separate responsibility, how to properly set permissions, separate things out so that we're not running into issues. I think we're getting a little bit close to time here, but I just wanted to give, anybody an opportunity, of course, to ask their questions. But also, Rasha, if you wanted to make any final important points that you want to go through.
Mhm. I think in general, if you are building an agentic AI platform or you are bringing an external agentic AI platform on board, um, the question that you need to ask is
Hmm.
building an agent is not really, it's not difficult, right? So building an agent that is secure and compliant and keeps you out of trouble, that is actually the hard part. So what I would ask or anyone, whether you are bringing an external, whether you're buying or building, as we call it, right? So it's regardless of whether you're buying and building. If you're buying, evaluate your platforms or the application that you're bringing in for any security and regression testing, evaluation, red teaming, and role-based access control. Evaluate them along those dimensions because the price of deploying, depending upon how big you are as a company, the price of deploying um, a cheaper alternative can actually, you may pay a bigger price down the road in case of any data any kind of issues, any kind of security compliance type issues. So know what you're, if you're building bringing in or buying an external solution, or if you are building internally, be aware of these challenges and be mindful of these challenges.
No, for sure. And I think that kind of brings us to a close today. We don't have any questions that came through, but as I said, it's been really useful to learn about or be pay very close attention to some of these things that we need to pay attention to before we deploy. That kind of wraps up our deep dive session today, and we discussed many important points, but we have lots more to come too. You'll see on our LinkedIn, if you follow our LinkedIn and our social media, you'll see that these announcements are going to come out and continuously come out. So keep an eye out, and we look forward to the next one and engaging and learning further.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Rebecca.